We are now ready for the next round in the 2022 NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. So today we're going to do a preview for the Western and Eastern Conference Final, and I'll give you my predictions as well. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we're ready for the conference finals in the 2022 NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. It's hard to imagine we get here so quick. It really doesn't feel that long ago that the playoffs got underway here, but here we are. So obviously we're going to do a preview for the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. I'll give you my predictions and we'll go from there. If you're participating in the Top Shelf Hockey Bracket Challenge that we put up through NHL.com, make sure you keep an eye on things to see how things go. Of course, it's just for fun. I know so far I'm doing relatively well with my previous predictions. 3 of the 4 teams that are in the Final Four I did predict to be here, with the exception of the back-to-back Cup champion Lightning, who I thought were going to run out of gas and lose in round 2 is what I had happening on my bracket, but they've proven me wrong, and they're going to do battle here with the Rangers, so we'll obviously see what I think now based on the actual outcome. So let's get started with the Eastern Conference, and we'll jump to the Western Conference, and then of course I want you to leave your thoughts and predictions in the comments as we go through this as well. So we're going to start by doing a statistical comparison to look at this matchup here between these two rivals, the Lightning and the Rangers, who have met in the playoffs previously, although it has been a little while. Obviously at this point the Lightning have only played 11 games where the Rangers have played 14, so you have to wonder how that's going to factor in. Will the Rangers be more tired with the lack of break, or will the Lightning possibly be rusty with having an extended period of time off after getting through their second round series much quicker than the Rangers? They're obviously, both teams have won 8 games to get to this point. The Lightning have a record of 8-3, whereas the Rangers have a record of 8-6. So that's an X factor that it's really hard to predict and kind of see how things are going to turn out. But it can be a case of either way. I've seen it go with a team that has more momentum coming off a win. They want to get right back at it. And I've seen other teams that really benefited from the rest. And we've seen teams come back really rusty, and it kind of screwed things up for them. So we'll see where that goes. Now, breaking down some stats here per team, looking at goals and goals against, goals for, power play, special teams. Goals for, the Lightning have scored an average of 3.27 per game, whereas the Rangers have scored an average of 3.43 per game. So slight edge to the Rangers in that regard, but not a great deal of difference. Goals against, however, is a big advantage for the Lightning. They've given up an average of 2.45 goals against, where the Rangers have given up an even 3 goals against. So certainly edge Tampa that way. That's you would think overall the differential here is slightly better for Tampa. So, slight edge in that regard. Special teams, however, again, there's a difference here, but not drastic. The power play for the Lightning is 22.9. Whereas the Rangers power play in the playoffs so far is at 32.5. So that's a much better percentage. 10% is a lot. So edge Rangers. I know early on against the Leafs, the Lightning really struggled and they kind of had a hard time getting going. But once they got going later in the series, they did much better. And then, of course, they played way better against the Panthers in round 2. So it's almost like, even though it's a short amount, 11 games, I think it's fair to say that this team is almost a little different than they were at the beginning of the playoffs. So sometimes these comparisons mean a lot, and sometimes they don't mean a lot at all, and you see completely different outcomes. But we'll see how it goes. On the PK, the Lightning have an 87.8% success rate, whereas the Rangers are at 80.5%. So the Rangers have a little bit better power play. The Lightning have a better PK. So will that be the difference there? Will that kind of offset? And special teams could end up possibly kind of washing out and almost being a non-factor. But of course, that's assuming that they continue to play at these same sort of rates. Looking at shots per game, so the metric you see, shots F/A, is for and against. So the Lightning right now are averaging 31 shots a game while allowing 34 per game. The Rangers, are shooting at 32 per game and allowing 39. So both of these teams, through 2 rounds in the playoffs, are actually being outshot more often than not, giving up shots. So it goes to show you that both teams do rely heavily on their goaltending, which we'll get into here in just a moment. On the face-offs, FOW stands for face-off wins. So the Lightning have a 45.3% success rate on face-offs, whereas the Rangers 41.4. Face-offs to some people might not seem like a huge deal, but I always think of it as at least being somewhat important, because when you're starting with the puck versus without, it does make a difference a little bit in your puck possession and getting the puck where you need it to be and creating chances, etc. So, or getting out of danger if you're on a defensive zone face-off in that regard. So when you break this all down, it looks fairly even, right? The Lightning have better defense, better goaltending, but not drastically, whereas the Rangers have been slightly better offensively. So could that offset? One team has a better PK, the other has a better power play. Could that offset? Both teams are used to getting outshot. Both goaltenders are shining through. So at the end of the day here, statistically speaking, like I said, it's not that much of it's certainly not a mismatch at all. Obviously, the experience goes at an edge to the Lightning, the back-to-back Cup champions, probably in this regard, where many of the Rangers are here for the first time. Some of them have been through playoff runs before, but not a lot of them. So moving on now to some of their top scores, just to analyze how their top players are going head-to-head. Now, keep in mind, these are point totals, and not really a fair comparison because they have a different number of games played. But the Lightning top scorers are Kucherov with 15 points, Victor Hedman with 10, and then you get a three-way tie with Ross Colton, Andre Palat, and Steven Stamkos, all with 8 points. But they've all played 3 games fewer here than the Rangers, and the Rangers are led by Zibanejad with 19 points, Adam Fox with 18, Kopp with 12, Kreider with 11, including 8 goals, and Panarin with 11 as well. I added an extra group of stats here, which is a goaltending. I see this being a goalie matchup through and through. Arguably the two best goalies in the NHL, both putting up stats to show why they're in the Vezina conversation. Vasilevsky with a .932 save percentage so far in these playoffs and a 2.22 goals against, whereas Igor Shesterkin, .928 save percentage and a .268 goals against. So certainly Vasilevsky does have a slight edge in his performance here so far, especially when it comes to closeout games where he, just doesn't let anything through. I do see this being a big time battle of the, really solid Russian goaltenders here. Vasilevsky, obviously the, arguably the greatest goalie in the world right now. And Igor Shesterkin is trying to come for that title, and he's not there yet, but he's expected to win this year's Vezina Trophy. And over time, he could be in that conversation as well, and be right up there with Vasilevsky if the Rangers can continue, playoff success here over the next number of years while he's in his prime. So overall, I think we have a slight edge offensively to the Rangers, slight edge defensively and goaltending-wise to the Lightning. So time will tell how that goes. Another big thing here too is looking at the Rangers' offensive statistics. One thing, and I don't want to, really knock them down, but the Rangers have not faced a goalie like Vasilevsky as of yet. They haven't even, in fact, faced a regular starting goaltender yet in these playoffs. In round 1 against the Penguins, their top goalie, Tristan Jarry, was hurt. They faced Casey DeSmith. He went down with injury. They later faced Louis Domingue, so they faced second and third string goalies in that series. Same in Carolina, where Freddie Anderson's out hurt. Then they faced, obviously, Antti Ranta, who did a pretty good job. Later gets hurt, got pulled as well on occasion. And we saw Peter Kochetkov, who's a third stringer. So they got to finish out these 2 rounds without facing a regular number 1 goaltender. And not saying that they can't keep it up, but scoring on Vasilevsky and creating that offense like they've been is going to be way more challenging. And given the fact that Tampa has been so much stronger defensively, I am picking the Lightning to win this series. I just think that it's going to be, I think the Rangers can give them a good go. I think it's going to be tight. I think it could be close. I can see it probably going 6 games. But I just think the experience and the Vasilevsky factor is him and Igor are going to be going head to head. It's going to be tight. I think it's going to be close, but I can't go against Vasilevsky right now with this crazy performance he's putting on in these playoffs and his crazy performance that he's been putting up over the last few years when they have an opportunity to close things out. The Rangers have to get on them early as well. And the Lightning and Vasilevsky have not lost back-to-back games like that. So, Vasilevsky never loses 2 times in a row. So we'll see where things go, but I'm picking the Lightning in this series. Now on to the Western Conference Final. We have the Oilers and the Avalanche. I think many people predicted the Avalanche would be here. Not as many people would have probably predicted the Edmonton Oilers, but here we are. So of course we're going to do the same thing here and do a statistical comparison, which will preview the series. I'll give you my thoughts on this one as well. So looking at everything here broken down, the Avalanche have played 10 games, whereas the Oilers have played 12. Obviously, they got through their series a little bit faster, finishing up the second round in 6 games, winning 4 straight in round 1. As the Edmonton Oilers ended up a 7-game series in round 1 against the Kings, and then they finished off the Flames in 5. So at least, a little bit closer than the other series, but still, they both won 8 games, obviously, to be at this point. Oilers are 8-4. Avs are 8-2. Look at this scoring here. Goals for the Oilers are averaging 4.33 goals a game. The Avalanche 4.3. You can't really get much tighter than that. Both of them have high octane offenses, and it'll be curious to see where things go. I do expect a much higher scoring series than in the East. I see the East being a goalie duel, and I see this being an offensive duel with Mike Smith and Darcy Kuemper. Probably not looking to have the greatest statistics. You never know, but I think the offense will rule in this series, and the goalie stats won't be as pretty. It'll be who can, maybe make that extra save here or there. It might be the difference. Goals against, though, definitely an advantage. Avalanche allowing 2.7 per game, where the Oilers have been allowing 3.08. So defense certainly and goaltending a bit of an edge on the Avalanche side. Power plays are both clicking at a high rate. Avs are 34.5. Oilers are 28.2. PK-wise is a big advantage to Edmonton, though they've been playing much better in that position on special teams. 85.4 success rate compared to a 73.1 on the Avs side. So obviously, with both teams having a high, powerful power play, you don't want to put them on the ice as that much. But you know what? In this case, the Avalanche might want to be even more careful of taking penalties, given how their PK hasn't really been as good so far in these playoffs. Now, looking at shots for and against, we have the Oilers averaging 35 shots a game compared to the Avalanche putting out 40, and the Oilers are allowing 38 per game, whereas the Avs are only allowing 27. So that's a big difference right there. Obviously, goals, come from a number of shots. If you think about it, the Avalanche and the Oilers are getting enough shots on net, at least through 2 rounds, and a comparable amount here, 35 against 40, but the Oilers are giving up way more than the Avalanche have been. So obviously defense is tighter, and that could be a big factor. As much as this high-octane Oilers offense could very much continue, they're going to have to be more opportunistic and shoot at a higher percentage to continue that against this Avalanche team, assuming these defensive metrics continue to hold up here. Now, on face-offs, which I like to look at as well, the Oilers have been winning 47.2% of draws, whereas the Avalanche are just shy of 50 at 49.5, so that's a slight edge to the Avalanche as well. Now, let's now take a look at the team's top scores. Again, the games played are not the same, so it's not, exactly apples to apples here. But let's look here. The league right now is being led by McDavid and Draisaitl. They're putting on a clinic for offense, but can the Avalanche be the team to slow them at least a bit? McDavid and Draisaitl have 26 points apiece. Kane has 15 points, including 12 goals, which leads the NHL playoffs. Zach Hyman with 12 points and RNH with 11. So obviously, the top players for the Oilers right now are certainly producing at a higher rate than the top players for the Avalanche. The Avalanche obviously are getting things spread out a little bit better, a little bit deeper team, I think it's fair to say. You have McKinnon and Makar both with 13 points. Landeskog and Rantanen both with 11. And Kadri with 10. Now, to me, even though Mikko Rantanen has 11 points, he's been a quiet 11 points in my opinion, most of those being assists, and he hasn't been all that noticeable. It'd be nice to see the Avalanche get more to him. I know I've seen some people make the argument, well, he's almost a point or over a point per game. Yes, he has been. He's getting the production theoretically, but I've seen majority of those games for the entirety of them, and I just found it's been a quiet number of points, especially against the Flames. So we'll see what he can do in the next round. So if you look at an edge here, I think we can say the Oilers have a slight edge offensively, whereas the Avalanche probably have a slight edge on D and in goal, but not drastically. But I think that could change, like I said, because of the defensive style and the defense being better on the Avalanche side, allowing a lot fewer shots. The Oilers are going to have a tougher time to score against them, and they're going to have to take more advantage of their opportunities they do get. So I'm not entirely convinced that the Oilers can keep up this wild, wicked pace here, but we'll see. They certainly had Jacob Markstrom, who was a Vezina finalist in the last round, and look what they did there, whereas Darcy Kuemper is a good goalie, but he's not quite in that conversation. So they just might be able to keep things up with even fewer shots. So we'll see where things go. But a few keys to this series is, can the Avalanche defensively slow down the McDavid line? I fully expect Draisaitl to continue playing with McDavid, with Kane probably being there a lot, with sometimes rotating between him and Zach Hyman. Draisaitl, because of the whatever injury that he won't disclose, leg, ankle, whatever it is, he seems like he can't play center right now, so he's going to probably likely stay on the wing with McDavid, and they'll continue playing together. So can the Kadri line slow them down? Will we see McKinnon and McDavid go head-to-head? I'm not so sure we will, at least not on a regular basis here. Obviously, I think the play of Cale Makar against McDavid might be even more important. I think Jared Bednar is probably going to play Makar against them a lot. And the thing, too, is that the Avalanche, like Makar and Toews back there, they are, especially Makar, so dynamic with the skating that he can skate that puck out of danger. He's really good with the puck possession, and that might be able to impact getting them out of trouble and, preventing less turnovers, etc., that the Oilers forwards are used to feasting off them. So a little bit of a completely different blue line than what we saw in Calgary, where they have a lot more guys that are bigger and more physical, stronger. The Avs do have some of that, but the Flames and the Preds, minus Roman Josi, don't have the dynamic puck movers like these guys do. So I think that could be an advantage, kind of playing defense through offense by having the puck more and possessing it more and being able to skate it out of trouble. Look at another stat here from the back end. The Avalanche have 40 points from their blue line, whereas the Oilers have 30, including 10 goals for the Avs, 8 for the Oilers. So another kind of spot here where I kind of thought this could be an X factor in a series, where obviously both have high-octane offenses. But will the blue line of the Avs be the difference over the Oilers? The Oilers' blue line has been pretty decent. I must give them credit, but I do think the Avs have an advantage with guys like Makar and Toews back there. Unfortunately, Samuel Girard, who's also a pretty good puck mover offensively, is out and done for the series. Secondary scoring, I think we have to give a slight edge to the Avalanche as well. When you have guys like Lehkonen and Nishushkin and JT Compher, Burakovsky, so far they're putting up more points and contributing more than you're seeing from guys like Ryan McLeod, Puljujarvi, Yamamoto, etc. So I'd have to give a slight edge to the Avalanche that way. So I am predicting Colorado to defeat the Oilers, but I think it's going to be a high-scoring, long series. Going to go 6, maybe 7 games, but I'll probably say Avs in 6 as my official prediction to go on and play for the Stanley Cup against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So we'll see what happens. And of course, like I said, I want to know your predictions, and we can discuss it further in the comments. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.